I will start with a very obvious statement, which is that insurance is very important for schools. You should have insurance. That is because, one, as Karen mentioned briefly, schools often have indemnification obligations to individuals. That means that they have an obligation to defend them and to reimburse them for any claims that may be brought against that person. Those indemnification obligations can arise under law, which is some of the things that Karen cited to. Also, the bylaws often contain some provision that there's indemnification for officers and directors. And then employment contracts can also have indemnification requirements, whereby the school has to pay for defense and claims. In addition to those obligations, there's also just clear liability risks from employees, students, and other third-party individuals. Insurance, in its most fundamental sense, is a tool for managing the risk of those obligations and potential liabilities. Insurance does so by requiring the insurance company to both defend and pay any awards or settlements associated with those covered claims. That means if the school has done its job, whatever claims have been brought against the school and its directors and officers should hopefully be covered by insurance. It's important to note that there are situations when there may not be insurance available, primarily if the school doesn't have the correct coverages, if someone has let the insurance lapse, or there may just be a policy limit issue where there's insurance, but there's not enough insurance. That is why it's very important to make sure that you have reviewed what your insurance situation is and discussed it with your insurance agent or broker, which I'll discuss more later. In terms of this slide, when you're trying to understand your insurance policies, initial thing to appreciate is that there are named insureds. That is a person who, under the terms of the insurance policy, either individually or as a class, is covered. So your insurance policy should have as a named insured, directors and officers. That will be explicitly called out in the insurance policy. And then there are a number of different coverages that you can elect or purchase as an organization. There's some that are common to pretty much all businesses: workers' comp, general liability, property insurance for the buildings, auto insurance if there's any vehicles. Then there's also insurance coverages that are more narrow, but still extremely important for schools to have. Directors and officers insurance, as the name implies, covers actions by the directors and officers. Things that would be covered under that are claims related to breach of fiduciary duty, misuse of company funds, failure to comply with workplace laws, and lack of corporate governance. It's also very important to have an employment practices policy that covers things like discrimination, harassment, wrongful termination, and retaliation. Other very important coverages for schools are sexual misconduct and molestation, which are often not covered entirely by those other coverages that I mentioned. As the name implies, that covers claims related to an organization's failure to properly screen, train, supervise, or report an employee or volunteer who's committed abuse. The coverage itself may include money for crisis response, public relations support, risk management services, and some policies even include coverage for medical expenses for victims. Because this is the most complex and non-standard coverage available, this is something I would strongly recommend that you speak to your insurance professional about so you understand what's covered and what your options are with regard to that coverage. Also very important is cyber insurance that relates to breaches, things of that nature. This is particularly important for independent schools because small nonprofits are a very popular target for this kind of action because people know there's often not a huge IT department. There's just a level of security that may not be as sophisticated as a larger school district.